Great to have you both together. Scotty, let's go to you first of all. It's been a challenging 12 months for Mr. Biden. What were the pluses from his presidency?
Well, if you listen to President Biden's speech today, there was lots. There was a lot of great things that President Biden had accomplished this year, which was very odd considering we're having the highest inflation in the United States in 39 years. We have oil prices, gas prices at a 7-year high. Our grocery shelves are completely almost empty from California to Washington, D.C. And speaking of D.C., we had the least amount of freedom, the most amount of restrictions on 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and 15-year-olds who can't even go in and buy a hamburger and get out of the rain in most major cities. On top of that, the coronavirus numbers over the past year are the highest that they've ever been. So a lot of the same reasons which got Donald Trump fired a year ago are not only still in existence today, but have seen a rapid increase in the problems. And Americans right now are very fed up with it, and that was very obvious. And yet today, for 2 hours, we saw this victory lap taken by the President Biden that most people, even by the end of it, were shaking their head going, it's time for him to give it up.
Dr. Shola?
Well, Scotty, Happy New Year to you, but I'm sure you're not surprised that I'm really not going to agree with some of the comments you just made. I think the reality was this, that Biden in his speech came across as engaging, empathetic, he was strong, and he was articulate, right? As you would expect from any leader. What was definitely different, I mean, this is to Scotty's point, is Donald Trump was got rid of because he was a bad leader, because he was a liar and he had all kinds of bad qualities. When you look at Biden's first year, let us look at the fact that, yes, he had a successful vaccine rollout, that the economy under him, he had like a greater number of job creation than Donald Trump did. He had 6.3 million. Donald Trump lost over 9 million. Let's look at the fact of his COVID relief bill and the work that did and the major bipartisan infrastructure package. The list goes on. But I am not blind to the challenges that he faced when he took on the office. I am not blind to the fact that he has a whole lot more work to do, but he set the building blocks to have a successful second year. And yes, Donald Trump is trying to make his way back. And let's understand this, the Republicans are doing everything to make that possible with their voter suppression, election usurpation. All they are doing is trying to set the path for Donald Trump to come back. They, as you know, they're depriving women of their rights to abortion and so many other things. And we know that this is primarily how they try to get Donald Trump back, especially with the narrative around the election and undermining faith in democracy. So as far as I'm concerned, I think his first year speech was a good one, but he has a whole lot more work to do.
He did seem to slip up. I don't know. It'd be interesting to think what you two ladies have to say about this. Starting with you, Scotty. You talked about a minor incursion by Russia into the Ukraine and what reaction there might be if it was a minor incursion. Given the way the world is looking at that at the moment, isn't that an oxymoron?
Well, considering at this point, you're seeing that right now, Donald Trump was criticized for being best friends with Putin. And yet in this case, you had Joe Biden admit, hey, Putin can go on and take a part of Ukraine. Whether that's his plans or not, it doesn't matter. What Joe Biden said in that line was, hey, he can do it and we're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to, if one country invades another, it's okay. It's a part of it. That was a sign of a weakness right there that we all know that if Donald Trump would have made that same comment, we would be having that discussion today. But once again, and this is a great thing, I'll give it to Shola. We look at the same glass and one's half full, one's half empty, depending on who's actually drinking out of that glass. That's kind of that's how Americans are looking at this issue. So when you're looking at world, but you cannot take this past year and you look at what happened in Afghanistan and just the absolute horrible withdrawal and the chaos that covered it and not realize that for some reason, Joe Biden is right now looking for a way to get America back involved again, to feed the largest military budget that we've ever had. And he's going to use any example possible to pay off his cronies here in his campaign. And guess what? Ukraine is right now the best option.
Okay, so I think we need to flip your script right there. First of all, I am more than capable, which I have not seen you do, Scotty. I'm more than capable of calling Biden out. And I think his response...
You haven't yet.
Ukraine. Yeah, but I think his response on Russia and Ukraine yesterday made no sense. He did not get to his point until the end of what he was trying to say. Of course, so when he said minor incursion, I even went, huh? What are you talking about? There should be, Russia should not even be allowed to have a minor incursion. But at the end of his point, what he was trying to say was, it depends on what Russia does. And of course, we know that the White House then came back with clarification. I think without a doubt, Biden has to understand he needs to be more careful with how he articulates this point. And let me just also address this, okay? The whole thing about Afghanistan and the way America pulled out, again, let me remind you, the mess of Afghanistan started with Donald Trump. And yes, Biden, as far as I'm concerned, could have done a better job with the pullout. But the reality is that America had signed up to pull it out when they did. So there's a whole lot of blame to go around. He could have done better with the actual pullout.
But here's the thing. It actually started 20 years ago. And that's what I think the problem is with this administration. 20 years ago, America should not have gotten her nose in an area that had nothing to do with her. We have this thing called the Monroe Doctrine here in North America that for some reason, many of our politicians, and at this point, Joe Biden, seems to ignore. And so looking for a way to get involved, whether it's with Russia, anything in Europe, to get involved in something that has nothing to do with U.S. interests when there's so many issues here at home to keep him busy, it shows that it's quite a distraction that he's trying to do to maybe his abysmal record of what's going on in the United States right now. We don't have groceries in our shelves, Shola. There's more freedom in the UK than the United States right now. There's something wrong with that, and it's under this leadership.
Very, very quick response, Dr. Shola, because we are out of time. Very quickly.
So, Scotty, that's not true. When you talk about the shelves being empty, that's not true. Again, that's just giving the wrong narrative.
They are.
You have, with the world under severe global supply, the United States had more than 90% of its supplies in many shops. I just got back from one of your states, and there was no lack anywhere, not in any single store that I went to.
That's true. That is true. You make a very good point there. The shelves are empty in lots of countries around the world, but it's a talking point for next time, ladies. It's great to see you both back together again. Hopefully we'll see you maybe next week.